Welcome everybody. This is Nerd Cultured with the Sons of Glitches. I am John. We've got Remy. We've got Mike. We've got Neil. A full house. And I'm going to preface this right now. If you have not yet seen End Game,
spoiler
put
alert.
This on pause until you have.
or probably, well, Game of Thrones spoilers, maybe.
Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Anything that you haven't seen that may contain a spoiler,
how's this?
if you care about it.
Y'all can do Game of Thrones
listen.
spoilers, but I'm gonna need to leave before that.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Would you watch shit when it comes out, please?
So, to our listeners and to Neil, turn this off now.
All right, so we'll save Game of Thrones toward the end, and Neil, you can duck out if you need to before then. So
I would appreciate that.
End Game.
Thank you.
All right, so from this point forward, people, spoilers are everywhere. We warned you. Get the fuck out if you haven't seen it. So,
Yes.
So the Starks won the weekend for starters.
Motherfucker.
I know,
All right, hold on.
You immediately throw it in. That's great.
I want to do what we did for Captain Marvel, though. So I want to give everybody their chance to go around and give their impressions and their thoughts, and then we can talk about the movie as a
The minutia.
panel
Sure.
here. So,
Okay.
So John, you kicked us off. Why don't you get us started?
Yeah, take it away, man.
I like that. All right. Well, I'm actually going to give two completely separate thoughts from two completely separate points of view. All right. So,
Comic
as a
fan and not
of
comic fan?
Marvel Comics. Yes.
There it is.
As a fan of Marvel Comics, as a fan of the MCU, I was there opening night, 2008, Iron Man 1, all the way to now. I love the movie. They did a lot of fan service. There was a lot of things that kind of felt like it was pulled out of thin air, but it was for us, the true fans. We knew what was going on, and it was awesome. You know, you got Professor Hulk. You've got Cap picking up Mjolnir. You've got God, so many things.
Dude,
so many
that
things.
moment is what's awesome
the
about
theater
that.
cheered.
What's awesome about that particular moment is that's something that, like, it's not just for those comic book fans, because it was something that was alluded to in Ultron, previous Avengers movie.
Yeah,
and in
he
just a
wiggled it
slight way.
little bit.
And it's also very fitting for that character to say, no, I'm not going to pick this up. I don't need to deal with the repercussions of that. Like, that was
Every single person in my theater cheered.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, same here.
When he grabbed that hammer.
Absolutely.
And you know that every single one of those people is not a diehard Marvel Comics
Yeah.
fan that had read through all that stuff. So, anyway, John, continue.
Yeah, go on.
And you're right. And you know, it wasn't just for, but there was a lot of stuff that was. So from that perspective, I greatly enjoyed it. Now, I'm going to set that aside and say from a film watcher's perspective, if I didn't know these characters, if I wasn't invested, 21 other movies in and everything else, and it was just based on what we were given and the plot we were given, honestly, it was absolute dumpster fire garbage. One of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay. Why? Why do you say that?
From the pacing to the overall, worn out time travel plot line and the things that does when you fuck with time, and even when they try to say, oh well, it's going to work this way, okay, great, and then they don't let it work that way to fit other parts of the story they were trying to tell. Oh man, it was just worn out. I just can't. And I'm glad that I got to start out the whole thing there with that opinion. But,
yeah, no shit.
Yeah, from an actual film, like I said, but because of the 21 movie investment, and because of my fandom of the Marvel Comics and the MCU in general, I did love it. I watch it again. But I cannot get behind the actual script.
Okay, so to clarify, are you talking about as a standalone movie it was a dumpster fire, or as a follow-up to the 21 films?
As a standalone film, if these were random characters, if there was Bob and Billy and Jill and whoever fighting, whoever, and I knew nothing about the characters and nothing about the universe as a whole, and just watched that movie just on its own plot.
Okay,
with,
all right.
Different characters inserted.
Okay,
it was dumpster
yeah.
fire.
So
that I can get on board with.
Hang on, before we start arguing. So
I don't think we're going to
put
argue
a pin
about
in
that, actually.
Oh no, we're about to start arguing.
No.
Let's put a pin in that for.
Okay.
I'm about to start arguing with John.
Well, before you do that, can I say something real quick? Nothing fucking exists in a vacuum. Nothing. Nothing exists in a vacuum. That's why they mentioned
You got a lot of
all
dirt in
these time
mind.
travel movies that came before them, because they understand that, and that's why we have all these all these movies before that, because it doesn't exist in a vacuum. This movie would not exist in its format without 10 years of this franchise. It just wouldn't exist like it does. It would be a totally different movie. So I understand why you look at it that way, because there's some oddities in the whole Act 1, 2, 3 value kind of thing in this movie, for sure. It's a little bit of a mess if you look at it by itself, but that's why this movie would never exist by itself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I love it's like we're not going to argue, and then he immediately presents a counter argument. But
Well, no. I understand what he's saying, and it makes sense.
no, I
what
do
he's
too.
saying.
I do too. But I think he's making an irrelevant point, which is why I say that it's going to turn into an argument.
All right, so Mike, why don't you go ahead and hit us with your opinion on the entire thing? What do you got?
Sure. So I obviously loved the movie. You guys knew that, but
Sure.
I think as a bookend to this part of the MCU, to this phase, I think emotionally it worked very, very well. It ended the way that it should have, which is, and John, you made this point that everything sort of started with Iron Man and Tony Stark in 2008, and in 2019 we're closing out this piece of the MCU with Tony Stark in 2019, and him saying
R.I.P.
goodbye, which I thought was perfect.
Right.
R.I.P.
Wait, he's dead?
I like.
Sorry.
I liked the I liked the way they ended Cap's story.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Yeah, he got the send off that he deserved. There was a feeling of this sort of it was a I'm about to use a very sophisticated literary term here, a denouement from Infinity War that played out as the first part of Endgame. So what you got off that huge adrenaline spike at the end of Infinity War, that movie just kind of ended. So obviously now we've got to continue. We've got to sort of have a come down from that at the beginning of Endgame, and I think that kind of worked against the movie a little bit because they had to bring everything down. We had to bring everything back down. We had to have Cap sitting in a counseling group. We had to have Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow sitting there, sort of manning the phones, and everybody sort of scattered to the wind, and it was tough. I think from a storytelling perspective, because you can't not show the aftermath of the snap. You have to show that. But
Right.
By the nature of what that is, that's not exciting, and it's depressing, and it's hard to watch, and it's uncomfortable, and it's miserable, and it's supposed to be. But to have that open the movie,
It was a little rough.
think was it was tough, but that's why that moment when Cap grabs Mjolnir, when the portals open, and T'Challa and all the Wakandans walk out, and then Doctor Strange shows up, and when Spider-Man swings back through that portal, just Jesus Christ, and you could feel. I have never. I will say this: never been in a movie theater ever in my entire life where I felt an audience just go, yeah, and just sort of rise up together. Like there was an emotional wave that went through the theater at that moment. It was so perfectly executed, and it was so on point that
One could say on brand.
One could say, but it was done. It was done flawlessly.
Yes, it was.
And to get that kind of an emotional reaction out of an audience that through a piece of what is ultimately static media. It's not a live performance. It's on a screen. The performers can't hear us. The directors don't know what we're doing. It's like, it's the same way I roll my eyes at people who clap at the end of movies and clap when an airplane lands. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Don't do that.
Wait. People clap when airplanes land?
You've never? Oh yeah. Oh, they do.
I have
yeah,
never
yeah.
been on an airplane where that happens. That's fucking weird.
I've
I don't
flown
fly
a
often,
lot.
but I've heard it once.
Trust me, people do it.
That's
But
bizarre.
it's like people clap at the end of movies. Usually I look around and I go, "What are you fucking doing? Don't do that." In that moment, I didn't give a shit because they had done such a good job, and I was so swept up in it. I was right there with them. I was pumping my fist in my chair. It's like fucking yes. That is
is so
exactly
badass.
what I wanted out of that movie. That is exactly what I wanted out of the experience, and it was, for me, a perfect movie-going experience.
Nice.
On every level. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
I'm glad to hear that, man. Neil, what do you got?
So, what's funny is that you were like, well, we're all going to argue with John. I didn't feel like I was arguing with John. I'm going to argue with you on your point about the first act of that movie where it's all depressing and stuff like that. That was probably my second favorite part. I thought the time travel thing ran a little bit long, and that was a little bit cumbersome. I enjoyed it. It was good, but it was just, I think a lot of people maybe have liked that more because it was a bit of a victory lap. But to me, it was the first act is so character driven. And you said, oh, now we got to see Cap in a therapy meeting with a bunch of people. To me, that was so on character for him, though. Is what is he going to do when he's
It was.
What is he going to do when he's no longer a superhero? When he can't lift a boat off of somebody or something like that? What's he going to do? He's going to go be there for somebody like emotionally when they need it the most. Like that's.
Well, can I
Absolutely.
qualify what I meant by that? I didn't mean from a term of like quality of filmmaking.
Okay.
Or quality of writing or anything like that. What I meant was from a pacing perspective and from an emotional perspective. You're like you guys. I'm sure I was so jacked to see that movie. I was walking to the theater. I'm like bouncing in my seat. My wife's sitting next to me, rolling her eyes, and just like, oh, this fucking guy.
Oh, I can see her doing it.
I mean, she was doing that a little bit, but I mean, she was excited too. But but like I was at that level of sort of like kid on Christmas morning, like he.
Oh fuck yeah! Oh
And
yeah,
then,
we all were.
Yeah.
And then to have it just sort of be like, what the fuck? Okay, they killed Thanos like 10 minutes into the movie, and now everybody's just kind of moping. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we better settle in. Like that's what I meant. I thought there were some great performances in there. I thought there was some great storytelling in there. It was just I was hoping, I wanted the pace of the movie, and this is selfish. I wanted the pace of the movie to match my excitement.
Okay.
At the beginning of the movie.
I get that.
And so that's what I meant by that.
I totally get that. It's just from what it needed. I think that was exactly what it needed. And pacing wise, I thought it was one of the stronger parts. The first part, maybe like again, this is just my perspective on it, and it's just I totally get somebody else being like, that was boring. I get that. I understand that, and I feel you on that. But for me, it was just every bit of that was such a I don't know, the strong times of the Avengers movies have always been, the after party of Age of Ultron. That was probably one of the strongest parts of that. And it's because it was mellow, it was slower, and you got to see who these characters are about. And for me, that first part of that movie was a strength of that. Especially since, like, what's great about this is I've seen some complaints over the internets and all people sides and stuff like that about the validation that Infinity War gave to Thanos and his perspective, him getting a soul stone for sacrificing his daughter, who he abused most of his life, but quote unquote loved. It's like that kind of stuff. And I understand that frustration. I also understand why he would get the soul stone for sacrificing the only thing that he saw he loved. But I understand that frustration. And for those people, they got to see Thanos die twice. Once in the way that, like, literally, think about that. They got to see this guy.
That's true.
Who you loathe. They got you to loathe in the first film.
I don't think I did. I don't think I loathed him. I thought he was a great character.
Yeah, no, he is a great character. I don't think that's the argument there. I think it's just like in some perspectives, it's easy to see that he was given value. His point of view was given value. Does that make sense?
Thanos had a point.
And I don't think he did. I disagree with that.
All right, but continue with your opinion.
But anyway, so yeah, the first part of that movie was probably the second strongest. Of course, the third part, maybe it's the first strongest. I don't know. I'd have to see it a second time. But just the third part was a lot of fan service, and one of the best parts of that is I had a moment in that theater where when all the female characters line up and take the charge and take their stand. And I had a little bit of an eye roll moment for a minute. I was just like, oh, that's a little bit heavy hand. And I stopped myself midway through that sentence because we've literally seen that with dudes for decades. And it's no more heavy handed than that.
No, that was a straight up nod to the comic books, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like I immediately stopped myself halfway through that sentence of like, oh, that feels a little bit heavy-handed, and I realized like, no, that's accurate, because you could say
I want to come back to that.
Yeah,
actually.
we will for sure.
Yeah, I want to come back to that.
Thematically, it makes sense, and also all of Act 3 were movements towards splash pages, which is what the comics do a lot.
Yeah,
where you have the splash page of Cap, where like, okay, I started to tear up maybe like twice in that whole movie, and they weren't during deaths. One of them was when Cap literally stood back up with half of a shield and stood against Thanos' army, and literally like spit some blood out of his mouth, stands back up, straps his shield in, and it zooms out, and you see Cap with half of a shield a broken man, literally, stand back up and stand up against the armies of Thanos. And it's like, that's what I needed in Infinity War. We didn't have that as much. And I've seen some people say that they enjoyed Infinity War more. No way for me. No way. And so that's how I felt about that.
All right, Remy, you got your 5 minutes, and then we can spend the next 40 minutes arguing.
All right.
Can't wait.
So my opinion rests as a culmination of everything you guys just said. Let me start this with, I could have watched Cap and Thanos go at it for 3 hours and walked away happy. That was fucking
Oh God,
dude.
yes.
So
God, yes.
That alone made that movie worth watching. Not that the rest wasn't, but I agree with Mike with the pacing. The pacing I felt was a little wonky, but I understand why it was done the way it was done. The third act.
And that's ultimately a quibble, by the way. I mean, that's not like a huge scathing criticism.
No,
it's
and that's
like,
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I understand why it was done the way it was done, but it did feel a little...
Right.
It drug a little longer than I thought it would. But at the end of the day, I totally understand. It's like reading the Dark Tower series. You start with the first book, which is dry as fuck. But the rest of it, it makes sense as to why it was done that way. So, the final battle was a clusterfuck. But I enjoyed everything about it. It was impossible to tell what was happening. They had every character you can think of. Fucking Howard the Duck was in there.
Was he? Yep. I did not see that.
He was in there. Yeah, he was running
and this is why I need to go see it a second time.
Machine gun, and it was amazing. But
yeah, I need to go see this a second time.
You couldn't see what was going on, but that felt like a comic book come to life, and it was fucking awesome. Ultimately, piece by piece, there were a lot of things I didn't like, but when I look at the big picture, I fucking loved the movie. It was everything I wanted to be, just as Mike said. It was hootin' and hollerin'. It was everything it should have been. And it brought back characters that I didn't expect to see. I did not expect to see Tilda Swinton again. That was fantastic. I really
that was very
appreciated
cool.
that. The
dude,
little
we saw what's his name?
drops.
Robert Redford showed up.
Yeah, dude, the little drops from the last 10 years of, as far as I can say, cinema masterpiece was so much fun to see. It was fan servicey as fuck. John, you're 100% on the nose with that. But it was fan service that was warranted. They
earned it.
10 years.
They really did earn it.
Yeah, absolutely. They paid 10 years worth of quality content. A few missteps here and there. Iron Man 3, I'm looking at you. But ultimately, it was a fucking phenomenal movie, and I will watch it probably another 100 times. Easy.
Oh God, yeah.
Just for the little tidbits, because it's like Ready Player One. The number of little Easter eggs and things that I know that I missed, I'm going to be finding them for years, and I love that. That to me is exciting. True testament of a movie is wanting to see it more than once. And this one, I cannot wait to see another 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I'm so excited for it to come out on media. So, that's my opinion. Phenomenal fucking movie, but it had its issues.
Hang on really quick. So, I'm about to start a fight. Are you guys ready?
Let's go.
Oh,
crack your
always,
knuckles.
let's go.
Man, Mike just
Fucking
really
do this.
wants us to fight about this.
I know.
Because alternate universe, huh? Multiverse.
Okay, wait,
right?
hang on.
That's-
Where
Well, there
right where
is.
you are, because there fucking was. It
Uh-huh.
may not have gone that
Yep.
direction. We may not have seen it, but there
Oh my
fucking
God.
was an alternate universe. Tilda Swinton, who I just mentioned, talked about
Uh-huh.
the multiple universes, and they totally set that shit up. 100%.
They did set that shit up, but your theory about everybody from the Snap being in a multiverse was absolutely wrong, and they were brought back by time travel. I was right. You will now bow before me, you filthy peasant.
I will never bow before you, because I guarantee that there's an alternate timeline where I'm correct.
Which, to be fair, your theory, Mike, was that they were going to use the time stone, which was also wrong.
That was I was wrong about the exact. I was wrong. I didn't say that they were going to use the time stone. I said that that's what they teed up. So if you go back and listen to that podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I said what they teed up was the time stone. What they teed up was Doctor Strange, and therefore what they teed up was time travel. Now the fact that they didn't use the time stone to do it, I was wrong about that. I thought that that was kind of the obvious direction for them to take that, and I was wrong about that.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that podcast, but I'm pretty sure that I said this is what I want them to do, but they'll probably use the Ant-Man thing. I'm gonna have to go back and check.
I don't
Oh,
remember us talking about the
Microverse, I 100%
Rem-
mentioned
Rem-
the microverse.
I am 100% sure that Remy and I thought that they were going to use the quantum realm to fix everything.
Yeah, what I
don't remember.
wanted to
No.
see happen.
Now
was
we
a
didn't say
multi-universe,
that they were going to use the quantum realm to do time travel to fix everything.
No, we
But we
did say the
100%
Ant-Man
said
thing.
that they were going
it,
to
it
use
had to do
yeah.
with
with the quantum realm. Yep.
So
No, I was sure it was going to be time travel, but
you stick to those guns.
I am sticking to those guns. I was sure it was going to be time travel. That's what I said.
Yeah.
You guys were all hot and bothered about it and being like, no, and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and there's going to be a tie-in. There's going to be an end credit scene, and
I said it's unlikely, but it was a good theory, and I still stand by the fact that it's a wasted opportunity. I really
that would've
think
been
that it would
super
have
cool.
been a fucking cool opportunity. Retire all the old characters, bring in a whole slew of new characters.
yeah, well, c'est la vie. You were wrong.
I think there's an interview where the Russo brothers talked about their decision not to try to include the X-Men and all that kind of stuff, and they said it just came down to too much. There was just too much going on with all the characters they had already, combined with the characters that needed those payoffs and stuff like that. Because what we would have had to exchange
Well,
for that
yeah,
was
I kind
that
of agree
final
with that,
shot
yeah.
with Captain dancing with Peggy. You
Yeah.
would have had to exchange maybe the Iron Man funeral, like
By
all
the
that
way,
kind
what
of
the
stuff.
fuck?
You know what I mean?
Okay, two major issues I had with this movie. By the way, throwing it out there right now. Number one,
Yep.
at Tony's funeral, the kid from Iron Man 3 was there. Come the fuck on.
Yep.
Of all people to be at his funeral, fuck off.
I had to Google. I had to Google it.
Yeah, so did I.
Because
So yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
like,
I didn't
who
know
the
who
fuck
it
is
was
that
when I
kid?
first, but I thought about it a little bit, figured it out. But I have a question for you, Remy, and this kind of like consolidate my mind a little bit. How you feel about that? Which is the worst film, Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3?
Iron Man 3.
Great. No question.
Okay.
Very, very, very
from a
easily
writing
Iron Man
perspective?
3. From a writing perspective, Iron Man 2 was a worse movie, but from a movie perspective and a comic book movie, Iron Man 3 hands down was a worse movie.
See,
Iron Man
for
3
me, it was
a
just it was
dumpster fire.
all. I think Iron Man 3 was all about subverting the expectation, and I think that's why it pissed a lot of people off.
No,
And I
it's
think
just
that's why
a
it
shit
pissed you
movie.
off because the Mandarin was not the Mandarin in that. And yeah, you got the little short that told him, "Oh no, it wasn't really the Mandarin."
It's not only that. That was not the only issue with that movie. There were so many issues. The Mandarin was a big one, yes. His bout with alcoholism was taken away and given him PST,
Yeah,
which was
yeah.
stupid. His
I agree with you on
we
that.
rarely saw Iron Man. The Extremis was misused. Pepper should not have been in the armor that early. There were a lot of issues. It was a clusterfuck.
The biggest
of a movie,
one,
and it was not
Without a
good.
doubt, the biggest one is that he just magically, somehow, the miracle of science happened in that film where he could get the shrapnel removed.
Yeah.
The whole reason
What?
he's got that thing is because he can't get the shrapnel removed.
Yep.
Well,
That's
he
another
couldn't
thing.
back in 2012 or whatever it was because the technology wasn't there. And then literally within what
No,
4 years
no.
after he gets it removed.
No.
He has nanoparticles, but you're telling me the nanoparticles can't go in there and remove the shrapnel?
No.
So I'm just saying, like that's
Well,
not
That's
also
the
in
whole.
that movie-
That's the whole premise of Iron Man. That's the whole reason he's got that thing. That's the reason that it's there.
So now from that point on, he chooses to get in the Iron Man armor. He chooses to have an arc reactor in his chest. Every single moment is a choice now, and I think that makes it stronger. I understand that that's a big point for like Tony Stark, is that he needs that. But now he needs the armor because he's no longer, just a genius, millionaire, billionaire, whatever it is. He's also become a hero, and he puts the armor on because he's a hero, not because he needs the arc reactor in his chest. So, anyways, sorry. We're going to Iron Man 3 out of this. I'm sorry.
Let's bring it back to Endgame.
Yeah,
let's bring
sorry.
it back to Endgame.
Yes, please, a much better
Remy, no. That's not a criticism. I mean, trust me, I could sit here and tell you what's wrong with Iron Man 3 all fucking night, but.
Well, it was a
let's
Shane Black film. It wasn't a Marvel film. That's what it comes down to.
It was a shit film, not a Marvel film.
I wholeheartedly agree. Remy, what's your second problem with Endgame?
No after credit scene. We had
Oh,
10
no, fuck no.
years worth of this tradition at this point. And it could have been something so simple as the Howard the Duck in Guardians. Something something. The end of Spider-Man had Captain America talking about how patience doesn't always pay off. It was funny. It was perfect. Why ruin a perfect streak now?
So I'll tell you why.
The Marvel movies are not over. There's no reason to end that on the last one. That really bothered me.
So I don't think that's over. I think the next Marvel movie that comes out will have an after credit scene alluding to the next one.
Well, then it's
But that's
the one
because
that
it's the
stands out
beginning
with
of
the
a
sword
different
thumb.
saga.
No,
I think that's that's the end of a different saga. And what that is it's literally they all came out, they took a bow, all the original Avengers signed their names on the screen like a very theatrical final bow. And instead of then having the director come out and yammer at us for 10 minutes at the end of the thing, they let the curtain close and said, "This is the bookend." And I think that made that movie a lot stronger. So we're going to argue about that for the rest of our lives probably, but I think that was a
'cause you're
good
wrong.
move. Sure. I appreciated that.
Am I
waited
the
till the
only
end
one
credits.
that thought that was
No, I don't think you are.
Felt I don't know. It's just
No, I mean, I thought it was a little strange, but it didn't bother me. I mean, I thought the sound of Tony hammering the armor in the cave at the end was
A good tribute
That
to
was
him.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Nice.
I agree.
Yes.
I thought it was nice.
Yes.
So,
Maybe a
like that's
mid-credits.
something. I mean, sure, I would have been fine with it, but I didn't miss it. I was perfectly happy with the movie. I do want to take a second though and ask you guys about what you thought about how they handle Black Widow, because there's a really interesting conversation to have about her, in the context of not just of Endgame, but of because there's a Black Widow movie coming out and she's fucking dead. So
Yeah.
Can first of all, Scarlett Johansson, I don't think gets nearly enough credit for what she did with that character over the course of however many films she was in with it, 8 or 9 movies.
Iron Man 2 was her debut.
Yep.
So she was go back and watch Winter Soldier again.
Yeah, she started getting really good
She's
there. for
amazing
sure.
in that.
Absolutely.
So
Oh, she's a great
it's
character.
just so she, but in Age of Ultron and all this stuff. So she was really in. It didn't really click for me until sort of, I guess, as I was sitting there thinking about it in the car after the movie. But that was once she was gone, and in the way they killed her off, that was such a. It was like, okay, that she was really the emotional glue of that group of characters, especially by Endgame. She was the one keeping them all together. She's working. She's manning the phones. She's working the desk.
She even did that a little bit in Civil War. Like, she was on Tony's side in the beginning, and then she makes the choice to help Captain America at the end to not tear the team apart fully. Does that make sense?
Right, and no, it does. And she, even in Infinity War, she sort of, it's implicit that she kind of knows what Scarlet Witch and Vision have been doing. And by the way, pour one out for Vision. I guess he's just fucking totally dead.
Yeah,
and
but
he's
talk
never
about
coming back.
TV
That's
show.
fine.
Talk about like movies or TV shows coming out after this. There's a Vision and Wanda show. It's like what?
Nope, just Scarlet Witch. We haven't heard anything about Vision.
Just Scarlet Witch.
No, it's called WandaVision. It's called WandaVision.
What?
That's a horrible name for a
It
show.
is
and
a
I better
horrible
change
name.
it right now.
It is a horrible name. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm like,
Neil, I think you might be getting trolled. But so my question to you guys is, what do you think of the way they handled her death in the movie? And what do you think? Because I mean, is she just dead?
If I
Well, no, she's in a multiverse.
okay, settle down, Remy. Multiverse. So here's the thing. For me, the way that they handled her death, wasn't really emotional for me because I knew that it was going to be her
Yeah, it had to be her.
with the characters that were there.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's got a family,
and we started off with that too.
Yeah,
Right.
I knew it was going to be her too.
There's no question, right? So the whole thing where they're like, trying to battle each other to see who gets to jump off the cliff or whatever. Like I was like, okay, well, great. Well, we know that it's actually going to be her. So, and I think that kind of bounces back to what I would say was a mistake by Whedon in Age of Ultron by making their romance options go away by introducing the family. If that hadn't have happened and it was just the two of them and they were obviously romantically viable but they didn't have anything else going on, then that would have held a lot more emotional stakes than the current situation.
Yeah, but this way we were introduced to his family, which Hannah, his daughter, does become Hawkeye in the future. I wouldn't be shocked in the future if we saw Hawkeye pass the mantle. I think that was more a seed planted.
Yeah,
than
and they very well may do that, and that's fine. But that's not how the movie's set up, and that was obviously from the beginning, in the MCU specifically, right? That's not how they started, but that's where they came to, and because of that, it took away a lot of the emotion that scene would have had that not been the case. Because, like I said, there was no question who it was going to be, so it wasn't
right. No, I completely
there was
agree.
nothing there. Now that being said, to answer the "is she just dead" question, Mike, yes and no, because by my reckoning, there are now at least 3 very distinct timelines that we have.
Yeah, which is where I was going to bring Loki into that conversation too.
Yes, that's one of the 3. Yep.
Right. We also have the opportunity with Black Widow because she's got such a convoluted past. I wouldn't be shocked to see more of an espionage movie come from her.
Yeah,
more prequel
I think
stuff.
we'll see a prequel with her,
Flashback.
and then end with
No,
her meeting Hawkeye.
please, no.
Really?
No. God, no.
Kick-
I really hope they don't do that.
Yeah, bitch and moan all you want, but I think that's probably where we're going because she's got a really interesting past. Something that we never saw.
She does have a really interesting...
We want to know what happens in Budapest, Mike.
Past.
Don't take that away from us.
Nobody gives a fuck what happened in Budapest. Come on, nobody gives a shit. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to see, and I will go see a solo Black Widow film. I absolutely will. I want to see that movie.
I'd love to see the
But
Red
what I
Room.
don't want is to go back to before this whole phase of the MCU that we just bookended beautifully with Endgame. You can't take me back to before that. I'm sorry, but you just can't. I'm not willing to go have that. I don't need a Black Widow origin movie. I don't. I've got enough context for the character. I've got enough emotional investment in the character. I've got enough time in with that character.
But you know nothing about her.
I don't. I know, but I know what I need to know, and you can tell that story without smacking me in the face with it. You can progress the MCU without taking me back to 5 or 6 years before it was even a thing, in terms of the timeline of the movies. You don't. I'm sorry. Respect me enough to not feel like you need to make Black Widow the Phantom Menace. All right. Nobody needs that movie. We don't need that movie. We just don't.
It's going to have whatever happened in Budapest in it. I'm calling it today.
God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure.
As long as they do
and
it,
here's the thing.
if they do it in a 5 or 10 minute flashback, fine.
Yeah, that's
Other than
what
that,
it might
I'm
be.
out.
It might be like half of the, like a fourth of the movie is told in mild flashbacks, that explain that over the thing and then tie into the main movie, whatever the hell's going on with it. Does that make sense?
And the other half is just her splatted on a rock.
Yeah. It comes back to current time, and it's just her brains over a rock.
Too soon.
So, I've said this on Twitch. I don't think I've said it on a podcast, so I'm going to say it now. Fun fact, when I say the words "God fucking damn it," or when I type them into my phone, it auto-populates John as the next thing. That is not a joke, by the way. That's 100% true.
Now, Mike,
Well, you know.
I also don't want a prequel, but I'm going to guess that that's probably the direction they're going. However,
I really hope they don't.
because there are 3 distinct timelines, we do still have opportunities not to see that. I would be totally fine following one of those alternate timelines, but I would love to see some of her origin, because she does have such a unique... I'd love to see the Red Room. I'd love to see her ballerina days, whether it's flashback or prequel. I don't care. If there's a TV show with her prequel or her pre-MCU time, that'd be fine. I don't care. I would love to see... Black Widow as a character is very unique within the Marvel universe itself, because she doesn't have any superpowers, but she's talented enough to be on a team with superheroes, and she's got
which is why Hawkeye's interesting too, right?
Yeah, that's true. But it's just
I get what you're going with. The reason that I don't want to see them do that, and I'm fine with them doing it in flashback, and they already did a little bit of that, right? They already showed us a little bit of that in.
Well, they showed us the Red Room in Ultron, right?
In Ultron, right? They showed,
and they explained what that was.
You a little bit of, right? But so what I don't want, that's very true. What I don't want them to do is to try to my passionate hatred for prequels comes from you telling me a story that I know. I know where this ends.
Yeah, the character's going to get out alive because they're in the next movie.
I've seen it. There's no jeopardy. There's no drama. I don't give a shit. It's what I hated about the Star Wars prequels. Like, there's a Patton Oswalt bit about this that's genius. But anyway, I don't want to go down that path too far. But I want to see them take that character. I would love to see an alternate timeline.
Yeah,
with
that,
her,
that makes
she
sense.
Just goes off and does something awesome. But take that character and move it forward.
Yeah.
Take that character and do something. Don't take me backwards. You've spent the last 10 or 11 years driving me to this point where we're on the cusp of something brand new and exciting, and I swear to fucking God, if they give me a prequel that takes me all the way back to before all that shit happened, instead of giving me something that's moving this forward in a new direction that we haven't seen yet, fuck you. Don't do that. I'm not interested in that.
You know what, Mike? Here's the funny thing. Like, at first, I was against that. Like, I was with you on... I was against you. I was with the idea of a prequel and stuff like that, because I like the idea of, like, espionage spy movies are fun for me. But I think you're right with that explanation. That makes a lot of sense. He's like, move forward, don't look back. And I think you're absolutely right on that.
Give me a good movie, I don't care.
I will say this,
case.
though. I hope that Hawkeye's show is just him as Ronin killing bad people during the 5-year snap sequence. The whole season.
I really do, too. 5 seasons.
I will pay for that.
Fair enough. I would watch the shit out of that just because I'm an action junkie, if I'll fully admit. But, I mean, we've kind of got Clint's story.
So,
right? It's not... So, yeah.
But here's the thing. Something you guys said is we have 3 alternate timelines. I disagree. You know why that is? Because y'all, you guys touched on it with Loki. Yeah, no. So here's the thing. First off, Cap went back. He returned the stones, and he did not come back through that portal. I haven't read anything about what the Russos have said about that and how he got back on that bench and stuff like that, but he didn't do it through that portal. As far as I can tell, he hid out with Peggy Carter for his entire life, gave her advice, pushed her to do S.H.I.E.L.D., do all that stuff to make sure the timeline stayed consistent, and got back on that bench after 90 years or whatever the hell it is. He got back there not through the portal. So that means there's one consistent timeline from when he returned that last stone all the way back to where he was then.
No,
okay, so let me tell you why you're wrong. All right, you ready?
Okay.
The first timeline is when Loki takes the cube and baps out.
Yep.
when Hulk coming down
And where
the
do you
stairs
think he goes?
and
Where
It doesn't
where
matter
does
where he
where
wants.
does
He's got
Loki
the
from
the
that
point
time?
is, the point is, it doesn't matter where he went. The point is he wasn't where he was in the actual timeline that we have for today. Because in the
He did
actual
not-
timeline,
that
he
Loki
and
did
Thor
not
goes
die
back to
by
Asgard.
Thanos'
Right.
hand.
Right.
Correct. So regardless of where he went, I mean, he could have went to fucking Kentucky Fried Chicken and got a bucket. It doesn't matter. The point is he did not go with Thor back to Asgard, which is what happens at the
It
end of
always
Avengers
comes
1.
back to fried chicken.
Well, it has to.
Jesus
It has
Christ.
to.
So
Right,
here's
sense of
my
theme,
theory
okay?
on that, real quick. Just before we move on, is Loki has his own show on Disney. Is this? I hate to play the meta there, but I think what happened is he went, "Hey, I got the cosmic cube. I've got the thing that Thanos wanted. The whole reason he opened that portal was to get Thanos' army there, yes, so he could rule Earth. But he also got there to exchange that cube to Thanos. And I think he went to Thanos, ended up on his ship, and where did the ship go? To our current timeline. And I think that's where what we have now is in the current MC universe is you have a, Avengers 1 Loki running around that universe going, where the fuck am I?
I want to ask you a question real quick, Neil, and
Yeah.
I feel like everyone here knows the answer. Do you think that there is an actual version of events where Loki would have given that to Thanos, regardless if the Battle of Earth would have went the way he wanted it to?
Yes. At that in that stage of that character, yes, because that character was still looking for belonging. That character was still looking to rule, and he wanted that power. And if I would assume that he would think, okay, I exchanged this for that power. He's got a bargaining chip. What's he going to do with it? He's not just going to
He wins the Earth and rules and keeps the stone and has both power, which I think is 100% in Loki's actual personality.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but I'm saying, where does he go immediately after that? He goes to fulfill his end of the bargain so he doesn't have a mad titan on his ass.
So one thing that I did want to ask you guys about, not even relative to the timelines so much, but there's so much to pick apart here.
Well, there's also
So-
issues with the timelines, and the biggest strong point of this movie,
there is.
I think,
I don't want us to get too bogged down in time travel shit though, because we could be here all
that's
night.
my point, is I think this movie got to the point where I don't care. I don't care that
Yeah, I don't really
that
give a shit
Cap
either.
somehow has a. I don't care that somehow Cap has a reformed shield at the end of that. It makes little
They can
to no
hash
sense.
it all out later.
Well, that doesn't
Well,
make a
you should.
difference because Marvel is known for its multiverse, dude. That is how it operates. It just splinters the universe. That is the explanation.
Yeah, and by the way, all my anti-multiverse stuff, Remy, is not to say that the multiverse isn't a thing
Right.
or is not going to become a thing. It's just that wasn't the mechanism they used in this particular movie to drive a plot point. That was my only case against that. But one thing I did want to ask you guys about, one thing I wanted to bring it back to, was we talked about this that moment in the third act in the last battle where all the women sort of lined up, and it felt like in the moment for me in the theater, it felt good. It was I love all those characters, right? It's a cool moment. And then so we're in the car, we're driving away, and my wife said that felt a little contrived. I was interesting. Okay, why? And thinking about it, I was all right, I kind of get why you might say that. And she said because it felt like they had to make the point that, and keep in mind, this is not, Remy, you made that it's like a nod to the comic books.
Yeah.
This is coming from somebody who doesn't know that.
Right.
So to her, it was these are all powerful women. They're all uniting in this moment of crisis, but we have to make the point that they're women.
Right.
That's the way that she reacted to it. And I said, okay, why does that... I'm not quoting directly, but I mean, the gist of my question was, okay, well, why does that bother you? And she said, well, because I want them to be just powerful characters. I want the fact that they're women to be irrelevant.
I completely agree with you.
And which, so do I. But it was, did that moment take you guys out of what was happening in that scene?
It was a moment where I went, huh, okay, interesting. And then I moved on. But it did absolutely catch my attention.
Yeah.
Whether it took me
I
on
agree
the
with
bad
that.
way or not, yeah, whatever. Now, see,
And
give you a little bit of history on Marvel for a moment. Marvel, John, if you can help me out here with the time frame, I want to say around 2010-ish, maybe between 2010 and 2013, Marvel steered really heavily into PC culture.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
They brought in Miles Morales, a black teenager.
Yep.
They brought in Sam Wilson as Captain America. They brought in Riri as Iron Man. I know there were others.
Ironheart,
I'm trying to think.
Somewhere in that term, they made Jane Thor.
That's right, Lady
Yeah.
Thor. Thank you. There were
Who's
5
actually
or
kind of a
6
cool
that they
character from what
all
I've seen of
did. I'm not complaining about any of these characters.
I know you're not. I know.
I think they're all fantastic characters, but they did this move where they saw the PC culture becoming a thing, and they just took a hard fucking right into it, and it was too hard. In my personal opinion, they overcorrected. Had they done that over time, I fucking love. Okay, I'm not going to say I love all those characters as they are. I love the majority of those characters the way they are. I don't think Sam Wilson is good Captain America, but that's only because he went street level and is more heroes for hire style, whereas Captain America is more
Well,
top tier.
and the other thing that kind of confused me about that, I get why. So in the context of the MCU, not the comics necessarily, but in the context of the MCU, when the asshole in me, when Cap gave Sam the shield, I was like, so you are aware that he doesn't have any superpowers, right, Cap?
Yeah. He's gonna.
If he throws
one stray bullet is gonna ding him in the head.
Exactly, and he's gonna throw that. He's gonna throw that shield, and it's just gonna hook off. He's gonna hook it off into the grass
On your left.
and then he's gonna have to go. He's gonna have to go get it.
Oh, but speaking
not gonna
of
come
the
back.
on your left line, there's
That was
point number 2
fantastic.
where I started. Yeah, like that was super on
Brilliant.
point. But anyway,
That
I
was
digress.
brilliant.
Oh, it was a great moment.
So,
That's what
I
I'm
know.
saying. Like that's just me being an asshole, and it didn't click until I was out of the theater. I was like, wait a fucking minute.
Wait a tick.
Like,
Now, to be fair,
what-
Sam does have an ability in the comic. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right, but I'm saying that's why I said not in the comics, but in the
Yeah.
context of the movies.
It's not super
like,
soldier.
It's like in the movies, right. In the movies, Sam is just a guy with a jetpack.
Right.
So maybe not the best choice, but okay.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm not fond of him as Cap because he's so street level. He's basically heroes for hire. But
Yeah.
my whole tangent on Marvel's history, the reason I put that out there is because as much as I love Marvel, obviously I'm a big fan. I've got it tattooed all over my body. But as much as I love
Yeah, you do.
Marvel, I think that they make some poor choices to appease the masses. And
Yeah,
I don't want
they're
to say
human.
that was a poor choice, but they do have a tendency to steer really heavily to make a point. And that feels like that may have been one of those moments.
This would be my my input on that, Remy, and I generally agree with you. The problem that I had when they did the big shift with the Lady Thor and the Miles Morales and all this, and even like this scene here, which I didn't have a problem with the scene with the ladies, and it was a callback to the
No,
Sirens.
me neither.
So, but the thing is that Marvel has always had a diverse group of heroes. They
And
don't
that's
need to
exactly
do that.
it.
They don't need to make a hard left into PC. They already do it. There already are super badass characters that are women, that are black, that are whatever. I mean,
Well, yeah, Carol Danvers
there's
has
no
been
reason.
amongst the strongest heroes in the Marvel universe for years.
Since forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right.
Yeah.
We don't need to make Lady Thor to have a powerful woman in Marvel Comics because we have one. We have more than one. We just don't need that. So that's what I see when I see those things. Is I'm like, you didn't really need to do that.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. They just they steer really, really hard for no reason.
Yeah, and I thought that there were some great. I mean, if we're talking about the Marvel women, Scarlet Witch had one of my favorite moments in that whole movie.
Fucking
Oh,
love
yeah.
Scarlet Witch, man. She's
Yeah.
so
It's
bad.
just like it's like you took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. You will.
That was such a
and then she
And
just
then
starts.
Then she
Such a
commenced
good
to
moment
pounding
of
his
that.
ass so bad he had to call in an orbital
Oh.
strike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, just, what about our troops? Fuck them, just
Fuck
shoot.
'em. I just-
It's like
Take
Yeah.
this bitch out.
so great. But What did you guys think about? So here's what could be. This has the potential to be a loaded topic, I guess. But what did you guys think about Thor?
Yep,
I
I was
loved
waiting for
it.
someone
That
to
was
say it.
that was the one part of the movie I really distasted. That was
I
so
thought it was
Crybaby,
fine.
Crybaby Hulk in the Infinity War and Thor in this one were my two big issues with this culmination series.
So I actually have something that I had mentally prepped for this, Mike. I actually liked this version of Thor. I thought that it was fitting for where he had come to. You know, you start the movie out, and it's really the first portion up until they kill Thanos the first time is just a continuation of Infinity War, right? They could easily have tacked that onto the end of Infinity War, and it would have been, the same.
Right.
Right.
He goes in, he lops off the head. What did you? I went for the head. And then at this point, he's lost everything. He's lost hope. The stones are gone, even though Thanos is dead.
And he's not only that,
he
but he's
didn't go
failed.
for the head. He blames himself. Yep, he missed the head the first time. He could have stopped it. If he would have killed Thanos there
Yep.
before the snap, it would have all been over, and he would have been the hero. But he didn't. So what does he do? He falls into depression, and that really is how depression looks. Not sad and
Yeah.
mopey, but pretending, right? Drinking,
Making
playing
jokes
Fortnite of
and-
all fucking
yeah.
things. Yeah, right. I thought that
Playing
was really
Fortnite, yeah. Playing Fortnite is depression. Let's all agree with that.
Yeah. Playing Fortnite and getting fucking trolled by 13-year-olds.
And let's talk about for a second the dark future that they painted there, where half of the developers of video games are gone and all we have left is Fortnite.
good. It's Fortnite. So here's the thing.
That was really funny, Neil.
Yeah, I heard
Here's
that
the
somewhere
thing.
else. That's not my thing.
Actually, quick side note on that. Did you
Sorry.
guys see that Epic bought Rocket League?
Did they?
Yeah, I
did.
saw. Well, they paid the developers for the next exclusive for that. Yes.
Yeah. So
All
anyway,
right. Let's not
that-
derail
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Table
yeah.
till the next podcast.
So yeah, right. So the what I was going to say though is this version of Thor, fat drunk Thor, I liked for the reasons that I said. However, I think in Infinity War they did a huge disservice to Thor and how far Thor had come, because in Ragnarok we have a Thor that's lost his eye. What are you, Thor, god of hammers? No, he's lost his hammer, but he's still badass. Then what happens in Infinity War in the first 10 minutes? He gets an eye, and he flies to a planet and gets a new hammer. I think that was a huge disservice to the progression that he
Yeah,
had
I
had.
agree.
Yeah,
I
but
remember.
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker was cool.
Stormbreaker-
Don't
I
get me
mean,
wrong.
Stormbreaker's cool, but you know what was a lot cooler? You know what was a lot cooler? Was Thor just with lightning just all over him, like Raiden from Mortal Kombat style, just ripping through guys on the Bifrost Bridge. That was cooler.
That was cool.
And there were so many times in Infinity War where I was watching him just swinging that axe, and I was be like, dude, did you forget that you could just like shoot fucking lightning out of your eyeballs whenever you wanted, or is like that just not a thing anymore, or what are we doing here? And
Two steps back there for sure.
Yeah, I didn't hate. I didn't hate what they did with the character, but it also didn't do much for. It's like I've seen that in so many movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like we've seen that. It's like we've seen that. It's like I get it. He failed. But it's like the fact that he's just like, okay, fine. You're drowning yourself in booze, and you got a beer gut. Her. What bothered me was they played it for laughs, and there were a couple of
They started playing it for laughs, but they also went to, like, literally Hulk comes to get him, and he calls him on it. He goes, like he's like making laughs, making jokes, and Hulk kind of smiles a little bit and goes, yeah, I get it. And he goes, look, man, I get it. You blame yourself. They call it out. They actually address it. And yes, I know you've seen it in different movies and stuff like that, but have you seen it in the MCU yet? Have they dealt with it?
Well, no, but I'm saying I thought it was cheap. I thought it was cheap storytelling.
Okay.
I think that there was a better way to, like, what they did with Hawkeye was fucking great and proves that Hawkeye lost on balance, we'll say, just as much as Thor, and his reaction to it was way more interesting and way darker, but way more interesting than what they chose to do with Thor.
we want to see a TV show about what Hawkeye was up to. I don't want to see a fucking TV show about what Thor was up to. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, yeah, but the difference. Okay. The difference there is though we've seen 3 movies with Thor, and we haven't seen anything. We've seen Hawkeye as a side character for most of these movies. That's a big reason.
Fair enough. But Neil, when I say they played it for laughs, what bothers me is that, like, look, depression like that and post traumatic stress like that is not fucking funny. It's not something that should be played for laughs.
I don't.
And
Okay.
and I'm telling you, in the theater that I was in, when they revealed Fat Thor, everybody laughed. Okay.
Yeah.
When they showed Fat Thor in the event in his time travel suit, everybody laughed. And those were deliberate decisions that were made by the directors and the filmmakers to elicit that reaction from the audience. And I've got a problem with that.
Okay.
First of all, I think it does a huge disservice to the character in general. I totally agree with John about that. That the arc they took him on was not. It didn't work based on where that character was before Infinity War started. Like to sort of bring him back. I mean, he lands in a good place. Like, I'm happy where they ended his story. Like, I totally want to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with Thor.
Oh, fuck yes.
And Peter Quill fighting with each other.
I think that was a great thing of, like, when
He's
you
mimicking
first
my
meet
voice.
when the Guardians first meet Thor, they're like, "Oh, Quill, you've gained weight," and he's like, "What?" And he goes, "You're like, yeah, you're one sandwich away from being fat." And then the next time he meets with Thor, who's the one who's intimidated with him, Thor's gone through that. And I like that they held it through to the end. When he literally puts on the Avengers suit and goes out to face Thanos, he's still that, but he goes out there anyway. And he goes out there to fight because he's one of them. And that no matter what has happened to him, no matter how bad the depression he got was, he still stepped up when it came to it.
I
And
like that too, but it had less emotional resonance for me because they didn't. The way it was written and the way it was crafted, it always felt like it didn't feel like drama to me. It felt like half slapstick comedy and half pseudo drama.
That was my issue with
You know,
it, is the
like
slapstick.
I laughed when he stepped out and he had the gut and stuff like that. I laughed at that because, like, yeah, it was silly. It was this stark contrast to what you were expecting, and that's why it was funny to me. But when they pulled it back, when they pulled it back and went, that is depression. That is not having purpose. Because in Infinity War, yes, he had lost all that stuff, but he had purpose, and that was to avenge the Asgardians,
Yeah,
and that was
he was
to
chasing
stop
Thanos.
Thanos. And so
Right.
when he failed at that, and then he finally killed Thanos at the beginning of End Game, and then he lost purpose.
Well, but I'm saying, and I get that.
And I don't think, and here, yes, the first 5 minutes of seeing Fat Thor was played for laughs. I don't feel like it was played for laughs the rest of the movie.
No, I think I feel like it was.
Okay.
I'm just telling you the way the audience
I get that.
reacted in the theater I was in.
I feel like it was until he got Mjolnir back in Asgard. I feel like they played the laughs until then, and then after that, I
when
agree
he
with
met
you.
his mom, and his mom looks at him and goes, "Honey, you're better than this, but not in the way that you think people expect you to be."
Yeah, but like that scene with his mom didn't land for me
Really?
emotionally the way
Okay.
it should have, because because right up until then, like even that, they kind of opened it with a joke. It's like that it's like that should have been a real moment where he sees his mom again and she just kind of looks at him and goes, oh my goodness, look at you. And it's like, oh, come on, really?
Can I ask a question that's been bothering me since Ragnarok? Where the fuck is Lady Sif?
Yeah, that bothered me too. She should have shown up at least in the final battle, but yeah.
Oh,
Isn't she
she's
fucking around
gone.
with Agents of the Shield?
Well, she was there for an
she's-
episode, but where the fuck did she go?
Yeah.
I
Isn't
like
she,
her character.
I mean, well, by the same token, where was Coulson? I mean, is he dead again? Or
I mean, he's on Earth somewhere, but yeah,
So
yeah.
So maybe who knows? But I will say this: to me, Thor wasn't the disappointing character of the film. To me,
no, I didn't, by the way, I want to be clear. I don't think he was a disappointing character. I just didn't like the way they handled
okay, fair
part of
enough,
his story.
Fair enough. But that being said, I did have a disappointing character of the film.
Hulk.
and that's the Hulk. Yes,
Yeah.
Hulk.
Okay.
Not so we have Professor Hulk, which was awesome, by the way. When I saw that, I was like, dude, fuck yeah, let's go. But here's the thing: the idea of Professor Hulk is he's the best of both. He's as smart as Banner, but as strong as Hulk. But you don't see either.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
He didn't do
Yeah,
anything.
I mean,
he could have not been in that movie at all, and the movie would have been exactly the same.
Yeah,
I
almost
disagree.
worse than
Yep.
Crybaby
I disagree.
Hulk.
No. I disagree with that point because the only person who could have brought them back was the body of Hulk and the mind of Banner. Because Banner's fucking brilliant, and utilizing the Infinity Gauntlet requires a very strong mind and a very strong will, and it requires you to be physically endurance. So the only person who could have brought them back was that combination.
I disagree.
That's just, that's
That's,
sorry.
that's an
The only
interesting-
person who
that's
could
an
have brought them
interesting
back and
point.
lived was him. And
I disagree.
I think that there was a lost part there. I think that he should have hulked out at the loss of Nat, and I think that the relationship between him and Natasha fell flat, and that was a disappointment for me. There was no conclusion to that,
Yeah.
and I felt really bad about that.
Well, because literally only the person that liked that idea was the one who made it up was Joss Whedon,
Yeah, but I did,
and then
I dug that.
he was gone.
I thought it was interesting.
So they didn't follow up on it, other than an
They did a
awkward,
little
like,
bit.
Hey,
They
hey.
mentioned it, but it was just exactly. And
Yeah.
here's the thing: of anything to make him go back to Hulk versus Banner Hulk would be her death, would enrage him, and bring that back out. And I think that could have been an interesting moment. Maybe to have him come to. I don't know how you write that. I don't know. I don't have that answer. But I think like him fighting Thanos as like World Breaker Hulk may have been interesting.
So to me,
Dude, he would
the
destroy
revenge
Thanos
fight
in
with
World
Thanos was the most disappointing part of his thing, because in Infinity War we have the Hulk that gets beat down so bad he doesn't even want to come out to play the rest of the movie, which I didn't like in that film, to be fair.
Same.
No, I didn't like that either.
But that being said, I didn't like that choice that they made in Infinity War. But here in Endgame, he had a chance at redemption to come back and to be there, because Hulk was just as much of an OG as Iron Man, Cap, and Thor
Yeah.
in the MCU.
Wait, he was the second.
He should have been. He was the second movie. That's right. He's more of an OG than the other two, right? Iron Man was the only one that was before him. So he should have been there fighting as Hulk, or Professor Hulk's fine, but actually fighting in that scene with those guys because of that status. Instead, now Neil, I know we're disagreeing on whether or not other people could have done the snap that brought people back. I think others could have, but regardless of that, other than that, he literally does nothing the entire film. He doesn't solve time travel. Tony does it in an
He
afternoon.
does. He figures out how to do
He
it before
doesn't.
Tony shows up, and then Tony stabilizes it.
Well, not really. He makes old man Ant-Man and baby Ant-Man. He doesn't figure it out. His science is flawed.
I gotta
Okay.
admit that was pretty
So
fucking funny though.
it was funny, but the point is he didn't
was
do
pretty
anything.
funny.
Real quick before we continue, because I think we'll all agree on this, is Ant-Man was fantastic in Act 2 of this. He was such a good glue for the Avengers, like bringing them all back together and making no sir, that's America's ass. Like that shit was. He played that really well in this film, and I enjoyed Ant-Man
really
more
is
in this film than I
America's ass.
enjoyed in his own films.
He was incredible in this film. I do agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, moving on.
But yeah, what I was saying
respect.
is he didn't do anything to solve the time travel. So we don't really see the brains of Banner. Okay, when he goes to pick up the stone, he doesn't convince the Ancient One in any other way other than just saying that Strange gave it up. He didn't convince her with any science. He didn't convince her with any show of strength. He just says, "Oh, well, Doctor Strange gave it away," and she was like, "Ah, well, in that case, here you go." And so anybody could have done that. Okay, I know we're having differences of opinion, Neil, on whether
Yeah,
or not
I
he
know.
could have done the
I understand.
snap, but he did do that. But then in the final fight scene, he did not fight anyone.
No, he was a disappointment. Both movies.
Yeah, completely wasted.
I thought
It felt like they didn't know what to do with him.
I thought
From a
I thought
writing
he wasn't a
perspective.
disappointment in Infinity War, because you got to have Banner out of his time finally. It was in a Hulk suit and stuff like that, but more or less he's like, finally you get to see Banner beat somebody, and I thought that was kind of cool. I don't think it was a strong Hulk moment by any means, but I really do. I don't like I said. I don't know how you write that, but I do think him coming back and beating the shit out of basically doing what Scarlet Witch did to Thanos, but having him have a moment where he really puts an impact.
Yeah, everyone gets a turn of giving Thanos a little ass whooping. And Hulk should have been on the list.
And he really should.
I would have liked,
especially since. Because here's the thing: in Infinity War, how Thanos beat Hulk is how you beat Hulk. You do it fast, you do it decisively, and you knock him out. That's literally how you beat Hulk. And he spent the whole movie as Hulk.
No, you say the sun's getting real low, big guy, and you rub his palm.
Oh God damn
it! Sun's getting real low.
I mean how you
low.
physically
Stop
fight
saying
Hulk.
that.
Yeah. So.
So speaking of the sun getting low, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left here, and I want to ask you guys what you thought of Robert Downey Jr.'s performance in Tony's last couple of minutes.
It was fantastic. Incredible. And not just in the last couple of minutes, but like the first 10 minutes of the film when he's like depressed and he's trying to make things work, and then he's literally scrawny. I think that was CGI, but he's like scrawny when he comes back, and the rage he felt for, the misplaced rage he felt, but that was absolutely like just well performed. The anger he felt.
That is the best moment. I'll call the film a moment. The best moment for any actor, any performance by an actor, in the whole MCU.
Robert Downey killed it. He owned this movie.
If that guy if he doesn't get a Best Supporting Actor nomination for the, I mean, it's an ensemble cast. You can't say like Best Lead Actor in a film. He ought to get an Oscar nod for that.
And yeah, here's the thing: he knew that was his last time playing that character, and he knew. And yeah, maybe he comes back as a hologram or something like that, like they've done in the comics.
He better not.
As like a 2 minute, like 2 minutes of full runtime throughout an entire thing or something like that. Because here's what I think would be interesting: is 10 years down the line, you have a hologram because they've captured so much fucking CGI of Robert Downey Jr. that you could literally have him just voice act it. Is you have his daughter put a suit on and call herself Ironheart with the AI of Tony Stark in there somewhere. I think that'd be fantastic 10 years from now.
What I was really driving at though more was just that moment when he puts on the gauntlet.
Yeah,
I am Iron Man.
And when he says "I am Iron Man" for the last time, snaps his fingers. It just was that, or was that not the best? That was such a satisfying moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
On every conceivable level.
It was
absolutely.
It was so good.
Now,
so good.
Speaking of that moment, I know we do have to wrap up here shortly, but speaking of that moment, at the end, Star-Lord was searching for Gamora. Was she snapped away because she was part of Thanos' forces?
No.
Or did she bounce
No,
out?
she's definitely still alive. But here's what they did with that is, there's this thing in a lot of movies and shows when you see him and her or whoever the pairing is get together in a show, like for example Jim and Pam in The Office. I know a lot of people that just stopped watching that show at that point. They just stopped watching because the people I wanted to get together got together. Cool, done. What they did with that is now you have younger Gamora who doesn't have feelings for Star-Lord back, and and the more mature Star-Lord who's learned and stuff like that and has grown a little bit out of being a man-child has got to figure out how to not only win her but also give her space and give her agency and give her whatever the heck she needs to get back there. And that's going to be an interesting third movie.
I don't know that I really give a shit about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
you.
kind
That's
of on the
fine.
same page.
Yeah.
Okay. That's you. That is fine.
Yeah.
But
no,
it makes me...
I get that. I'm just saying, like, they're kind of setting it. It's like I've already seen Peter and Gamora get together. I've seen that. It's that whole tell me a new story. I don't need to know how they get back together again. I tell you the truth, I would have been happier if she had stayed dead.
Well, she could have been dusted. That would have been a pretty impactful scene.
To be honest, it's not clear in any way that she's alive.
That's what I'm saying. She was.
Well, she
part
obviously
of Thanos'
betrayed
forces.
Thanos.
Well, yeah, but how specific was Tony being when he snapped?
Yeah, I mean, was he just everyone that came from the past? or whatever.
No,
You know.
they. I mean, she had at that point. So let's say he was snapping Thanos' forces. At that point, she had already betrayed Thanos.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I mean, this we're getting into metaphysics here, but so how do the Infinity Stones know? Do the Infinity Stones just know who's loyal to Thanos?
And that's what I'm asking.
And that's assuming that he even used that parameter to snap. He might not have.
Right.
We don't. The
Right.
point is,
have
we
no
don't
idea.
know.
We're never-
Yeah, we don't know.
And so that's why we're going to have Guardians of the Galaxy 3, The Search for Gamora.
Weak.
Yeah.
No, it was a Star Trek
yeah.
reference there. Moving on. Sorry.
I
Yeah,
got
no,
you.
I got the
I know you
reference, but I really
I got that
I really hope I really hope Guardians 3 is a little bit better than that.
Well, they have
remember, in Guardians, we
and I don't think
we still do have Adam walking around somewhere.
God, I
Maybe.
hope
Yeah,
to
and
see
that was
that
my
soon.
last question. That's my
Adam
final
Warlock.
question: is where the fuck was Adam Warlock?
He's in a cocoon.
He might not have hatched yet. You know, we don't know.
I was actually, Neil, that's a really good question to end this on, because I was sure at the end of Guardians 2 that he was going to show up at some point in Thanos' arc. Because fucking comics, hello. Yeah, where is
Well,
he?
we're missing Adam Warlock
fuck.
and Nova. I'd love to see both of them.
Only time will
Yeah,
tell.
But
Only
Yep.
time will tell. Well, and on that note, you will have to. Everyone will have to hold off on the Game of Thrones spoilers till next time. But it's time for us to sign off. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this content, you want to check us out for anything else that we do, come to thesonsofglitches.com. You'll find links to all our media there. Good night, everybody.
that's right. Have a good night, folks.
Good night.
Take care.
Hey folks, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed. If you did, do us a favor and hit that sub button and ring that little bell. You can always catch us here on Twitch and Discord. All the links are in the description, and we will catch you next time.